Hello? Dude. Oh my goodness. So this week, I have been playing RimWorld. I decided to give this game a shot. I'm a 100% brand new player. And I've got about 30 hours in it. And today, I lost my first colony, or my first crew. And as soon as I lost it, I was like, dude, I need to do some archival recordings of this game because it is incredible. Now, obviously, I've heard nothing but glowing things about this game. You know, it's one of the best, and it's this, and it's great. And having played it now for about 30 hours, it's definitely not exaggerated. Definitely not. I'm a big fan of Dwarf Fortress, and I've played that quite a bit. And there's just certain things about Dwarf Fortress that are tough for me to get past. And all of those things that I struggle with, this game remedies through and through, which is just so awesome. But it is definitely a story generator. And it's right there. Like, that is absolutely true. This is the only other game I'm aware of that rivals Dwarf Fortress, and honestly, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, it's better. But the first colony, okay, this is what I want to talk about. Basically, the vanilla experience. Like I said, I'm a brand new player. I wanted to get in here and just kind of relay what happened. And the mods that I did pick up were kind of community recommended, not necessarily for new players, but to help new players like understand certain mechanics and to offer certain quality of life improvements to make the experience a little bit more streamlined. And when you're dealing with games that have this much depth, honestly, that's super important. That's super, super important. So the only thing I have that alters gameplay, and we'll get into this later, is I have a mod that allows you to create a fishing zone and allows you to fish. It's called Vanilla Expanded Fishing. And it's, honestly, I don't think it's a big deal, but I mean, it's a fishing mod, and we're talking about me here, so it's the easiest installation of my life. I don't even need to think about that. Fishing mod, it's in. Boom. So this is where we started. Now, I just did 3 random pawns. I just kind of randomized them. I didn't do any like deep dives on anything. It was whatever I got is what I got, and I went in and I just gave it the most authentic experience I could. However, the map tile that I chose in hindsight was a disaster. Now, I'm going to show you the world map here, and everybody who's a veteran player is immediately going to see the problem. Dude, I chose a random single tile in the middle of the ocean. Like, so what was going through my head? I'm like, dude, I'm going to play on an island. This is going to be sweet. Yeah, no, that's not. That's not really how that worked out. So the issue here is pawns, they can't traverse ocean tiles. So you can't caravan at all until you research the transport pods. Now, the problem with this is the transport pods, they require the high-tech research bench, and to build that bench, you need, I think it's like 10 components. Yeah, 10 components. And without caravanning, I was component starved. Like, the components I did have from when I landed, I used to build, like, my weapons and my generators. It's like the most basic fundamental stuff. My coolers, like I had none. Okay, so I was relying on raids and the traveling trading caravans that came through sporadically to try to bolster my component supplies. And yeah, no, that didn't work. And yes, I did use the search function to search the map for the chunks. So to make sure I picked up all of the transport pod stuff and the space, debris, all that stuff. There are 0 components. I picked it clean. And it offered some very interesting challenges that kind of made me, well, again, it was like a lesson learned. Like, okay, we definitely need the overworld gameplay. So in that aspect, I have not experienced the overworld part of RimWorld at all. So I have yet to form a caravan or done a raid or anything. I haven't done any of that at all. I've just done this kind of tile-based, home-based management thing. But yes, so we started with our 3 standard. We did like a barracks setup in the beginning. Obviously, a lot of lessons learned around this. Got me intimately familiar with, the pawn's mood. Obviously, when you're in a barracks, there's a debuff at first. So then I got to learn about how to, spruce up your base so that way the barracks becomes impressive, and then that debuff becomes a buff. I got to experiment with individual rooms, saw the benefits with that. A lot of hospital gameplay. I had to deal with 2 plagues. One plague amongst my people, and then another plague amongst my animals, which was super interesting. So the immunity system and how treatment or tending works and all that, super cool. Recreation, the beer and drug system, the growing system with the growing zones. I had no idea, like, how much is too much. All of this right here is nothing but smoke leaf, and you do not need this much. Like, that's just not a thing. But I know that now. And it's the same with food, like how much rice, differences between potatoes and rice and corn, and mix and matching all of these things, dealing with vegetarian pawns, hunting and animal taming. We actually went really deep into the animals. I had a pretty healthy population that I was managing, and I got into the auto slaughter system, and I just have to say this is super elegant for like maintaining and culling population, especially if you're looking to like have a steady flow of meat and animal like products being kind of injected into your little colony. This is invaluable. This is crazy. I thought as the population got insane that it would become ultra tedious and overwhelming to manage it. It did not. That automated system is absolutely fantastic. They did a great job. Okay, so what happened? This happened. So, yes, this is called an ancient danger. Now, everybody who's played this game knows what this is. I didn't know what this was. So I discovered this, and when I discovered this, there was a little like, tooltip or a note that pops up that tells you like, be prepared when you break into this because there's things in here that are potentially dangerous. So I made like this little haphazard defensive structure out front, and I brought all my pawns over here, and I had one pawn. His name was Meek. Now you don't see him up at the top because he burned alive right here in the doorway. So there's no carcass to remember him by. We will tell his story, I promise. But Meek was kind of my heavy hitter. I had traded for military armor, a recon helmet. Like, he was decked. Well, okay, at least I think he was decked. For everything that I saw, he outgeared everybody that I ever ran into. Until this encounter. But so I broke in, and when I broke in, there was this mechanoid creature in here called a pikeman, and I have him right here. I destroyed this thing. This was a joke. This was not a problem at all. It died super quick. I was prepared for it. Still don't really know what I can do with this because it's a mechanoid corpse, but I died shortly after, so I didn't get a chance to really explore this too much more. But what was a problem were these ancient crypto sleep caskets right here. Now, so after I defeated the pikemen, I decided, like, okay, I'm going to undraft my pawns, and so they're on their way back en route to the things that I assigned them at the base. And I left Meek here, and I figured, okay, I inspected this, and it tells you, who knows what's going to be in there. I figured because it's a crypto sleep casket, it's probably a person or a creature, maybe one of those mechanoid things, or there might be something in it, whatever. But I figured I opened one, and Meek is definitely equipped enough to handle whatever comes out, or at least that's what I thought. And so I kept Meek drafted, and I opened this casket. And when I opened this, there was a soldier that came out that was pretty geared, but it wasn't just her. At the same time, the 5 other caskets opened at the same time, and 5 more of those soldiers came out. So there were 6 of these like ancient geared soldiers that immediately spawned and were hostile to Meek immediately. And they had like the chain shotguns, the LMGs, heavy SMG ARs, like they were decked. And Meek got absolutely destroyed. Like you could literally see he didn't even move a square. He just instantly goes down, and then you can see where he crawled out of the building trying to get to the hospital. Like he immediately went down and he crawled out. Now, as soon as I opened it and I saw that, I paused and I was like, oh shit, there's more combat. I wasn't expecting all of them to open. And by then, a lot of my pawns were already kind of almost back to the base. So I immediately grabbed them, I redrafted them, and I had to get them back en route to get back to my defensive structure. But fortunately, by the time they got back here, most of these NPC soldiers, because Meek got destroyed immediately, they had already made it outside. So while the pawns were running to get into the defensive structures, they were being shot. And with the weaponry that these guys had, they got absolutely demolished. Like, we got shredded. But what worked in our favor slightly, now you can see we killed a bunch of them. But Parna, which is this pawn right here, I saved this guy from a drop pod that had like randomly landed later. And it's just this old guy. He's got like a bad back, like he couldn't walk very fast. Like this guy was ultra just slow, but he had great animal skill. And I used Parna to tame a lot of the animals that I was kind of taking care of and manufacture or producing or whatever. And one of those was a Thrumbo. I still don't know what I could do with this because pretty much right after I got this, I died. But I had tamed 2 elephants. One of the elephants survived, and I had full trained him. Well, basically full trained him. I got one more rescue on this one, but the other elephant is right here, and this is Butter. So I had Peanut and Butter, and they were both trained to fight with Parna. So while these pawns right here, so there's these 3 plus Freckles here, so these 4 were on their way back up here to the defensive structure because, Parna's this old man with a bad back. He couldn't really get anywhere very quickly, so he got down basically right in this area here, like the forest area. But the elephants were with him because when you train the elephants, they'll follow their masters or their owners, whoever you set that as. And when they go out and do field work or they're fighting, the elephants will follow. And I had toggled the elephants to attack. So when Parna got attacked here, the elephants went on a rampage and they absolutely destroyed these. It was crazy. Like they just absolutely stomped most of these super soldiers that had come out of these caskets. There were 2 more that you don't see here. So there's 4 of their bodies here. There were 6 total. So the 2 that survived, one of them had an AR, the other one had an LMG. They managed to not only down all 3 of the pawns that made it, which are these 3 right here. So we had Yates. This is my doctor. We had Chappelle, which was my cook, and we had Galena, which was my gardener. Really was handling all my plants and my growing and stuff like that. They had made it back here, and by the time they got there, they just got shredded. There's all their gear right there. They got absolutely dunked, and then, of course, they started crawling to try to get to the hospital, which was this whole section right here. So they go down. Parnog gets down pretty much immediately, but the elephants go crazy and kill 4 of them. The other 2 kill everybody, plus Butter, the elephant. Peanut ran away and survived. And then Meek was, so out of all of the pawns, Meek was the only one that wasn't in danger of dying. He just couldn't walk. Everybody else was bleeding out, and there was a timer on their, like, when they were going to die. So they're crawling. Meek is crawling, and Meek managed to crawl all the way to the literal front door. Like, he made it right here. While that was happening, when everybody got downed, it gave me, like, another pawn showed up, and I don't know if that's the game's way of trying to give you, like, a pity pawn just to try to, like, scavenge the situation or scavenge it, but it really didn't do much because he's like got a black trench coat and a hat, and he had a revolver, and the 2 that were remaining had the AR and the LMG, so he got absolutely destroyed. He got smoked. He got down right here, and he crawled through the storage room. You can actually see his little blood smear, and he made it to the bottom hospital bed. So he made it in there, and he was sleeping and recovering, and he did manage to stabilize himself, but it gets complicated. So while Meek is crawling all the way to the front, the raiders lit my barn on fire, and they started lighting, well, literally everything on fire. So they lit the barn on fire, they lit my prison on fire, and then they lit the coolers on fire, which spread the fire into my base. So into the shelving and into the, like, it was not good. All of the coolers got lit on fire. We have 4 of them. So the fire was spreading very quickly inside the home. Meek made it to the front. He managed to get to a point where he could walk, and I walked him in here. And when he got to about the center of the barracks, he had a mental break and he went berserk. So it caused him to attack everybody, or like the first person he saw. So he immediately left the barracks again and got destroyed immediately by the ladies with the AR and the LMG. Like, he instantly got downed, and then he started crawling back into the building. Now, pretty much when that happened, the whole base was on fire. Like, it was not good. Poor Vaughn, he gets to the point where he wakes up, and he gets to right here, and then he immediately passes out from heat stroke, and then lights on fire. So he's burning in the hospital, passed out from heat stroke. Meek runs out here in a rage, gets absolutely deleted, crawls back into the doorway, and then lights on fire in the doorway and dies. And at that point, that's it. That's game over. Everybody in the forest that was crawling is bleeding out. They all died from bleeding out here. And that's the story of the first little camp. I stuck around for a little bit because I was curious. So there's a couple cool features that happen when you lose that allow you to kind of, like, you can still play, like, for example, I can still sit here and observe the map, and I can play it forward. And there was a bunch of these naked wild men. So, like, Austin, there's another one over here somewhere, right here. They were, like, basically just scavenging all of the things that I had dropped. Like, they came up here, I had a bunch of packaged survival meals that were dropped that they picked up and they were eating. So I got to, like, naturally see a group of additional characters come in and just kind of start scavenging like you would expect. But there was also another option that allows you to create 3 more pawns that will drop in, and you can kind of, like, pick up where everything was left off. And I thought that was super cool. So it's like you can choose to try to, make something of the situation if you want, and not have to start from the beginning. And that way you can kind of keep the lore, the timeline of this, specific world going. And that's really cool. I like that they offer that. I think it adds a lot to the immersion factor. It just makes the stories that much more, relevant and cool. But yes, boom, first map. 30 hours. Got my ass kicked by super soldiers out of crypto sleep caskets. Okay, so that brings us to right now. So I decided to start another colony, but I wanted to have a little bit more customization. So I used a mod called EDB Prepare Carefully, and this allows you to create your own custom pawns, like every aspect of it, their looks, their skills, their age, their equipment, all of it. You can fully customize them. And I was like, yes, I want to do this. I feel like it'll make the game a little bit more, I don't want to say, personal, but it adds a little bit of depth to it if you go into it, with that mentality. So I decided I'm going to make me, or at least as close to me as possible. So I made myself and I made the missus. I decided to go with a 2-pawn start, and I upped the difficulty. So instead of the community builder, we moved to the adventure story, and we stuck with Cassandra. I don't have enough experience to really know the difference between the different storytellers, so I'll just kind of explore each one as I do additional playthroughs and figure out which one I like. So we're just pushing the envelope here. So I figured I can get a little bit more difficulty by starting with one less pawn, plus I can push the difficulty from the slider up, and hopefully kind of keep that quote unquote that struggle. I liked the difficulty of the end of that first colony. It was cool to have to deal with this like cascading these cascading problems as things went wrong. It was very engaging. So I didn't want to get, I didn't want things to be quote unquote easy. And then on top of it, because I customized my pawns, and I got to choose their stats, I didn't want them to be overpowered. Now, I don't really have a frame of reference of what's too overpowered or not, other than what I experienced in my last game. So I was just kind of playing this by ear. But yeah, so this is Rug, okay? This is Rugimus Schmolus, which is literally me. Now, I want to show you something here. So look at my character, all right? Now, hang on a second. This is crazy. You're gonna love this. All right, bro. Just look at this for a second. Dude, if that's not me, then I don't even know. Like we got the beard, we got the braid. Oh, we're all in. Like, this is, yeah. This is the play. So when I made my characters, like I said, I wanted it to be as close to me in real life. So I looked at the childhood, an amateur astronomer. You probably couldn't see it in the webcam. I can actually pull it up real quick. Look just over my left shoulder, so the right side of the webcam, right. That is a telescope right there. I'm like literally an astronomer in real life. So I was like, hell yeah, this is sick. This is so dope. And then a deep space surveyor because, come on, bud, let's be real. Obviously, that's me. So I did that. And then even my stats, I kind of based off of like real life. I'm a huge outdoorsman. Tons of fishing. I love that. Like, I tried to do it, make it as close as possible without it being, overpowered. And then, of course, I did the exact same thing with my wife's character. I also included our animals. Ducky, this is my cat in real life. And then Stitch, this would have been my dog in real life, but long story, doesn't matter. So I added them with that mod to land with us. And then kind of started the journey. Now, the map we chose, I chose a caldera because who doesn't want to live in just a collapsed volcano? Like, come on, bud. That's so sick. This is what the world map looks like. Much better. This is a much better setup than we had in the last one. We're surrounded by factions. And like I mentioned, I'm really excited to get into the overworld gameplay because this really makes the game feel, I don't want to say bigger, but in essence it kind of does, and it adds an RPG element to, you know, like exploration. The idea of being able to have as much depth as you have individual tile maps all over the world and having literally thousands of tiles is, I think that's incredible. I'm excited to do my first raid and experience what that kind of stuff's like, because this is clearly a big part of the game. And I didn't get to experience that whatsoever because of my location in the last one. So 100% looking forward to the through and through. As far as the mods go, I had mentioned that I added the fishing mod. It allows you to essentially create just a fishing zone, and then your pawn's animal skill is used as the kind of major stat when you're fishing, and the higher that animal skill is, it quickens the speed in which you can fish and the total quantity of fish that you get. And you can also choose to select what size of fish you're trying to catch. So small fish, you can fish them quickly and you get more. Medium fish, it ups that duration and you get less, etc., all the way up to large. And it's an easy way to get fish are considered meat, and they don't need to be butchered. So in early game, if you need meat or you're in a tile that, you know, hunting is not really possible, or you simply don't have the stats to do it comfortably, you can still get meat to shore up kind of that weak link when it comes to the food side of things. Add to the vegetables, your rice, potatoes, and stuff like that. I don't think this is imbalanced at all. I think this is a great way to add this because, well, again, in real life, I'm an angler through and through. I fish constantly, almost every weekend. So I saw this, instant install, doesn't matter. And then this bathing one, I think this is a part of one of the vanilla core, like expanded vanilla mods that just helps improve the base game. And it just adds bathing or just kind of relaxing in water as a recreation. And this is really cool. It adds a little mood buff to the ponds individually, which is super, super badass. So when I started this, the other thing that I got into was this right here, this plan tool. And what it allows you to do is you can paint basically a schematic or a blueprint for projects and things that you're doing. So I use this when I did all of my grow zones and everything out front here. Obviously, I removed a lot of them because I've started to fill them in. But initially, when I got in, because we're only on day 2. Initially, when I came in, I basically paused it and started drawing out and picking a spot of where I wanted to go. And Dwarf Fortress has something similar to this, and it's super, super useful when it comes to keeping like the flow of the game going. Once you put in all the logistic work of like, okay, I want this room to be this, and I want this to be, you know, the kitchen and the storage area, and these are the bedrooms or whatever. Once you have these visual markers, as the game is progressing and you're playing, you can just like actively just expand without having to take that additional time to work through the logistics again. So it helps keep the story flowing. And this is a super valuable tool. I love this. And I like the way it's implemented in this game because it's very, very simple, and it falls in line with a lot of the other like simple to understand mechanics that this game does extremely well, that games like Dwarf Fortress, for example, struggle with, because it can be overwhelming. And it's not a bash on Dwarf Fortress. It's, again, just as a new player, this is infinitely easier to learn and to enjoy and to be a part of than Dwarf Fortress was, at least from my perspective. So I did that. I got everything planned. And then, of course, just looking at the map structure, you've got these 3 big choke points here to get in. This is going to be interesting. I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out, not only in combat, but I don't know. This is just super cool. This is a very interesting tile, and I'm very happy with this pick. As far as animals, I briefly looked over this. We have muffalos, and then the predators down here. I saw we had a bear and then a warg. Okay, well, this is new. I don't know what this is. So wargs, the bear, That's a warg. Well, the boomalopes. I had these in my first playthrough. When you kill these, they explode and they'll light everything on fire. Early game, this was like my main source of meat in that first colony. Until I started, taming and slaughtering my own animals, I use this. So I'm familiar with the mechanics of those. A boom rat? What the? Well, that's terrifying. I didn't know anything about this. Damn, that's okay. Interesting. That's gonna be fun. Guinea pigs. Oh yeah, I had a pack of like they were like infected, and they were manhunter guinea pigs, and they attacked my little base in the last one. So I'm familiar with these. Animal setup looks cool. Already, just when you look at it on the surface, like this is going to be a completely different game than the first one, and there's going to be completely different stories, which is, that's the big appeal for stuff like this. The last thing I want to mention, because I am getting into this, I took the time yesterday and today to really look at like all of the community mods that are available for this game, and I'm floored. The amount of like diversity that you can bring to this experience is absolutely absurd. There's one in particular that caught my eye. It's a medieval overhaul for the entire game. So instead of it being this sci-fi kind of space post-apocalyptic theme, this mod makes everything medieval. So you turn the game into this, well, essentially like high fantasy. It turns it into a fantasy game. And that's kind of where Dwarf Fortress shines. So the idea of being able to turn this into that, that fantasy experience just with a couple mods, that's absurd to me. And that's so cool. Because, there's going to come a time when I get that D&D itch, and the only thing that can sustain me is that epic fantasy gameplay. Dwarf Fortress is pretty much one of the only games, video games. Obviously, you can play D&D. That's the ultimate. But for video games, Dwarf Fortress is really the only game I've played that allows for that total, like, imaginative freedom and storytelling. That was it. So the idea of being able to have like, that fantasy gameplay with, which I'm going to assume, I didn't really deep dive the mod, but I'm assuming there's no electricity. I did see that you can make like inns and, taverns and all that stuff. There's another mod that adds an entire hospitality system. So you can build, like, if you're in the medieval part, you can do, like I said, inns and taverns. And then if you're in the vanilla gameplay with that kind of sci-fi post-apocalyptic, you can do casinos and restaurants, and it's just like, dude, what is this game? And when you pair that with the royalty DLC, because I think that adds like, I think there's like a loose monarchy system with the royalty DLC, the official DLC for the game, so you have like knights and stuff like that. I think if you add that into the medieval fantasy mod, it's just like, dude, this is a completely different experience. The idea of building a little city and having a tavern and creating a little caravan and traveling the world and visiting, different, I'm assuming in the medieval, like castles, and oh my God, dude. It's so sick. That's so cool. But yeah, expect 100% a playthrough, probably after this one, of the medieval overhaul with all the mods that come with that, to completely change this gameplay. Because, yeah, sooner or later, the D&D itch is going to hit, and I absolutely intend to scratch that itch with this game. Period. That's the spiel. RimWorld, absolutely incredible. I had to get this recorded because this is a gem. It really is. There will be a series of the adventures of Rug and Zev. Like I will record this and I will put it in full on the YouTube. I didn't want to do the first playthrough because, again, there's like you're learning everything, and I kind of wanted to just get involved with it, enjoy it, not have to worry about the the entertainer part of it, whatever. And then, of course, taking those breaks to look certain mechanics up, learn certain things. I'm comfortable enough with the game now. I can definitely keep it progressing forward, and I understand the fundamentals enough to where it'll still be that like new player interacting with it experience and kind of series, but not so new as I don't even know what the menus are. So kind of the best of both worlds. Nobody wants to watch a noob fumble through a menu and go, oh, okay, I'm gonna click on this pawn. What the hell? Like what? Nobody wants to watch that. Yeah, that's the spiel. That's the spiel. That's the whole speech. I appreciate you guys. I look forward to recording this. Take care.